All right, here's the first story from Mediaite. 561 years in prison. Trump fundraising off of recent indictment with dire warning. You could be thrown in jail for 6 lifetimes. So I actually got this email and it says, Patriot, with Crooked Joe's corrupt DOJ having unlawfully indicted yours truly yet again. Reports indicate that I could now face a combined 561 years in prison from the left's witch hunts. 6 lifetimes. There's only one message someone can send by trying to throw you in jail for 6 lifetimes, and that's fear. The fear that if you vote for the only candidate who puts you first, you too could be harassed, indicted, and even arrested by the current Marxist regime in Washington. All right, well, so we know about these indictments, but the latest update here, aside from the fact that Trump could be facing 561 years, Alan Dershowitz says conviction of Trump would be overturned by the Supreme Court. On Tuesday, Biden's DOJ filed yet another indictment, this we know. Following the announcement, lawyer and Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz sat down with Fox News' Sean Hannity to discuss the former president's legal prospects, suggesting that while he would likely be convicted, the ruling would be overturned by the Supreme Court. Quote, they claim that Donald Trump actually believed that he lost the election, that everything he did was fraudulent, that he conspired with unnamed lawyers to affect the election. You're allowed to challenge elections. Indeed, the best way to challenge elections is to come up with a slate of alternate electors. The government has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that subjectively Donald Trump actually believed that he lost the election and acted contrary to that belief. There is no smoking gun. There is no one who is credibly prepared to testify that Donald Trump said to him, I know personally I lost the election. What they're doing with the indictment is they're taking things where Trump said, like, you're crazy to someone, as if to imply that means he really knew that he did lose the election. But more importantly, I'm not so sure how much any of this procedural stuff matters. What the Democrats have been doing is effectively just an onslaught of whatever they can keep firing off at Donald Trump. And it's probably going to be some kind of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, it's impossible not to factor in the timing here, right? Like, you've had these investigations going, since the day he was elected? Like, he has been so intensely investigated for the last effectively 8 years. And now, all of a sudden, on the eve of an election, they are ready to prosecute. They have all of these ideas. And in fact, they aren't just going to try it in one court. They're going to try it 3 different times. I mean, it's sort of bizarre. Mike Pence said yesterday, I'm going to wait to review everything, but this is just a distraction from the real issues.
He threw Trump under the bus.
He threw him under the bus, and he's not even, at last I checked, he didn't even qualify for the debates, right? Like, I think this shows you how intensely influential the Trump campaign is, that they are timing federal investigations to try and throw off his campaign. I mean, this is one of the things that comes up. When are they going to have these trials, right? Will it keep him from basically campaigning and being with people? And instead it'll be in the headlines where, they're going to restrict media access to the court. There are going to be all these issues just to try to slow him down, and nothing is working.
Yeah, it's like the same old tired trope. They tried this with Russia, and kind of bog him down over and over again, and now they're continuing. I don't know at what point will they pull a different play out of their playbook. I'm a little concerned. He is straddling the line, like kind of JFK-ish, like, at what point does he hop over the line to where the deep state does something? I don't know. And what are they going to do? I don't know.
It's always a possibility for any president, yes, for a variety of reasons, but I don't think that's the route they go. I think what's more likely to happen, for one, they tried the rape thing in New York, where they're like, he's been convicted or not convicted, he's been found liable or something for some 30-year-old nonsense story. I just want to stress how ridiculous and insane the story was. And if you believe it, if you claim to believe it, you're either lying or really dumb. That Trump went into what was the department store? Like this
Bergdorf Goodman, right?
Yeah. This massive department store. And for some reason, nobody was anywhere. They walked in and everyone just vanished. They must have been raptured because they were gone. And then they went into a dressing room where, for some reason, the doors were unlocked. And then they went inside, did the deed, and left. And no one noticed. No one noticed. No one noticed the king of New York, the most famous guy in the city. Nobody noticed him walk into this massive shopping center. It's an insane story. But they've tried that. I bring that up because this is what they did to Julian Assange. They made this ridiculous fake story about, first it was like a condom broke and then molestation. Then the media reports it as rape, which is all a lie. Then they throw it all out and say, yeah, that's nonsense. We don't care about that anymore. Now they're going after him for espionage, which is also nonsense. But Hillary Clinton was famously quoted as saying, can't we just drone this guy? And then they were like, yeah, he's in London, so no, we can't. But this is typically what they try to do to people outside of Western nations. Inside, they've changed strategies. They don't want to make a martyr of these people. So what do? They accuse Julian Assange of being a rapist so that it sounds really, really awful historically and in the press. They try that with Trump, but it seems to just bounce off because nobody cares and nobody believes it anymore.
People have already picked their sides, right? Like you're not going to convince anybody that hates him that much that he's a good guy, and you're not going to convince the most entrenched of his fans that he's suddenly a bad guy.
Even many of his fans don't see him as that good of a guy.
Yeah. Well,
it's more
They
so
have
that
more of a realistic view.
he's a sword. He's or what did Michael Moore say? A human Molotov cocktail. So when they come out and they throw all this garbage at Trump to stick to him, and they're like, see, look how bad he is. They're like, oh, you're sweetening the pot.
And I think it's hard to contrast Trump, who hypothetically did something after we demanded he turned over all of these documents, or he's been under federal scrutiny for years, with the actual reality of the Biden administration, right? Like when you are comparing two things, the effects of inflation on your family and a hypothetical goose chase, which actually is the federal government wasting taxpayer funds, I feel like I'm going to be more mad at the federal government overall. It's not helping whatever cause they think they have.
So the question is, are they indicting Trump to interfere in the election, to distract from the Joe Biden corruption allegations, or could it be that the U.S. credit rating was just downgraded from AAA to AA plus? And we've had, I think, the highest number of bankruptcies in the first 2 quarters this year since the past 13 years. So something is going wrong economically. Inflation is through the roof. I mean, just go to the grocery store, buy groceries, and it's nuts. So there was a viral TikTok where it was like this couple, and they were like, it said buying groceries in 2011, and they're like dancing, and they have this big table, and it's like $100. And then it was like buying groceries today, and they're standing there, and there's like 5 things, and it's the same price. So yeah. When working class and middle Americans are right now watching the news, and someone on CNN comes out and says Donald Trump had classified documents, they're like, I'm just trying to buy some beef for my family, dude. Like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, 561 years. It's giving very Alex
It's giving
Jones.
desperate.
It's giving Alex Jones with what does he owe now? Like $2 billion or like
No, wasn't it trillion?
It's like
His
$1 trillion.
entire life.
Like he's just going to be.
It was the GDP of France, wasn't it?
Yeah. He owns
No, I'm not
an
kidding.
entire European nation.
Like it's like they just throw the book at them because they hate them. They understand that the people that already hate them are going to continue to hate them. They're like, oh, good, even though they understand that he's just going to file bankruptcy and whatever is going to happen is
And
going to
like
happen.
my thing is like all of this seems like a politically charged goose chase when there are like actual child predators or murderers out there who get less time.
Yeah.
or
Well, it was
hypothetically for Trump.
2.75 trillion.
That seems reasonable.
Brilliant. That's the GDP of France.
I like the
They were
idea
like,
that,
Alex
like-
Jones must pay us the GDP of France.
He's like, yep, I'm on it.
It would be funny if like everybody in France loved Alex Jones to the point where they were buying from him, and he did make that much money, and we just didn't know about it.
Oh
and
my
they just
gosh, he
ask
has
for
a
his
secret-
Venmo. They're like, can you Venmo us the money?
We've got you, don't worry.
But also, like, I mean, like, there's J6 people, like, they're going to rush this trial to make sure that it happens, like, right before the election. Meanwhile, J6 people, no trial, no nothing. It's very, like, if you pay close enough attention to what's going on in the world, you understand just how unfair all of it is, but the average person isn't paying that close attention.
That's what I found weird about Pence's comments, because he released this statement like right after the indictment came out being like, it means more talk about January 6th and other distractions. And you want to be like, we should talk about January 6th. We should talk about January 6th all the time, because there are people who were persecuted in a way that no one else has been. And we just let them fall to, like, you shouldn't let them just fall to the wayside. Like, that's the best thing about the Trump situation, in my opinion, which is that we like continue to talk about the miscarriage of justice at the federal level.
Wasn't it like literally the day before January 6th, Mike Pence said, we're going to have Congress go through this and we're going to hear the evidence. And the next day he's like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm willing to bet that like that night he's in bed with his wife and there's like a knock on the door and he's like, whoa, what's going on? He wakes up at 2 a.m. and then he comes to the door and there's a guy in a suit with like black sunglasses. And then the guy, and Mike's like, what's going on? And then he just hands him a picture of JFK. And then Mike's like, okay.
I really just feel like it was just politically expedient from that time. It wouldn't. I don't think anyone needed to say anything. He knew that his role as a vice president at that time was to kind of tacitly be in this in-between spot. It was very clear too, and that's why there was so much rage from the Trump base against Pence, is because they kind of knew he was talking out both sides of his mouth, and he didn't really mean all this. Like him saying that, oh, we'll look into this. What does that even mean? We'll look into it. Okay, cool. Like that doesn't mean much of anything.
This is a big component too of the suit now, because it's being reported the what's the guy's name? Smith. What's his name?
Jake Smith?
Jake's the
Is it Jack Smith?
Jack
the
Smith,
special counsel?
the special prosecutor, or whatever. Yeah. That he claimed that Pence did not have the authority to reject electoral votes, which is wrong. He absolutely did until 2022. Apparently, there was some revision to the law. But Democrats famously brought together an alternate slate of electors from Hawaii in 1960. Despite the fact that the state was won by the Republicans, the governor certified the Republican electors, Democrats still convened a fraudulent slate of electors. I say fraudulent, good sir. And because that's what they claim about Trump. And then sent them out. And Nixon chose to ignore, as vice president, he ignored the certified electoral votes and said, I'm going to count the Democrat uncertified votes anyway. Well, hold on. How does the vice president have the authority to do that back in 1960 and then lose it? Well, I suppose Congress could change things, but that's not what happened. Mike Pence did have this authority. Trump's lawyers were advising him, not perfectly, but he had some sound policy and procedure advice. And then Mike Pence was just like, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm out.
It seems crazy to me. Also, you know, like I said before, I don't think last I checked, he had not qualified for the debates, which debates are questionable anyways. The strangest thing about this is he has to walk this weird line that's like, well, I was part of the Trump administration, and that's literally why all of you know who I am. Yeah. Except also, I don't really want to be affiliated with the bad stuff or the more controversial stuff. So I'm going to sort of be the most politician of all times and try to make everyone happy, in which I will fail.
The crazy thing is that Mike Pence threw Trump under the bus, tweeting that basically saying this man should not be allowed to be president or whatever. It's the inversion of Vivek Ramaswamy. When Vivek came out and said we should all come together and reject these political indictments and these charges, they're trying to remove Trump, in an unjust way. That's really amazing. So when you say that Mike Pence doesn't qualify for the debates, it's not a very difficult question as to why.
Well, it's because he hasn't gotten enough donors. That's like literally what I'm referring to.
Yeah, nobody wants to give money to a guy who sucks.
Yeah. But that's so interesting, right? Because theoretically, at one point, he thought he was the heir apparent. Like, if Trump got 2 terms, he would be the next obvious candidate to win. And like, he made such a catastrophic miscalculation and then continued to be like, I think I can do it. I think I could win.
I think the landscape has changed so much. I said a minute ago that what Mike Pence was doing was politically expedient, but that was kind of wrong. It was traditionally politically expedient,
right?
And they're still in that mindset. What is now becoming the type of rhetoric that is becoming actually politically expedient is things like what Vivek is saying, like actually owning it and having bold messaging and having a legit message. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about some of his messaging and from the past, but I don't know. I'm open to see maybe just change his mind. But I mean, either way, that is the rhetoric people want.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.